Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and just as we get ready to celebrate St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, I thought I'd dig us up an appropriately colored transformer. So here we have the Generation 1 Autobot maintenance worker, Hoist. Hoist would be released in 1985, and strangely enough, he would only be available in 1985. He would be discontinued in 1986, and we would not get a replacement for him. Hoist is among the few Autobot cars that would only be available for 1 year, as Hasbro took all of them off the market in 1986 to more promote the toys that were heavily featured in the animated movie released that year. Hoist here is also, like many of the Autobot cars released in the first 2 years of the line, he is a retool of a previous toy, as he shares many of the same parts and a similar alternate mode with Trailbreaker, who was released the year before. As you can see, there are some subtle differences between Hoist and Trailbreaker. The most obvious, besides the color I mean, is the head sculpt is different on both toys. So at least they did that much for us, but Hoist also does have a slightly different alternate mode, and we will show that off to you later in the video. Hoist predominantly worked in maintenance, so he was responsible for finding any mechanical flaws in the Transformers' bodies. Why this wasn't also covered by Ratchet or First Aid, the medics of the Transformers, is a little hard to understand. The More Than Meets the Eye guidebooks state that Hoist is a general maintenance worker, but also is capable of fixing many other problems, as he was also a frequent collaborator with the architect, Grapple, in working to design many of the structures that Grapple would design as an architect. Hoist helped iron out some of the possible design flaws in them. One often wonders if Hoist should have been working with Wheeljack in the lab to make sure that the weapons didn't blow up as badly. Let's take a look at some of Hoist's articulation, and he's got about what's par for the course for many of the other Autobot cars. He does have a joint at the shoulder, so the arm can rotate all the way. You just got to do it carefully, as it's on very thin plastic, so you don't want to force it or rush it. That, and also clear the radar panels on his back. He does have a joint at the elbow. It allows his arms to fold down. They would fold down flat if he didn't have anything in his fist, like his fist or his twin guns are in. It prevents them from going down flat. But otherwise, they can be bent at a 90-degree angle, just like that. There is a joint at the hip, but it's predominantly used more for transforming. That and his towing apparatus gets in the way. But otherwise, he can bend at the ankle. But since you can't really do much with it, it's also kind of pointless. Alright, let's take a moment now and we'll transform Hoist. And of course, the first thing we got to do is remove all the items that are sticking into the arms. As per the norm, the launchers here, they are neutered, so they will not shoot, but they also barely hold. Also want to remove this chrome piece behind his head. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And we also just pop out the radar panels on the back here. There we go. Now to transform Hoist, reach around back and grab this orange piece to shift it a bit along with his head. And this green bar here on the back. All of it's going to shift a bit because we're also going to raise upwards the driver's cockpit. Driver's canopy is going to raise up like so. Now, we kind of fold this orange section back a bit so that we can fold Hoist's head so it's facing the driving area of the truck. Then we'll fold the orange pieces up and over, like so. Then this little green bar just folds up and rests against the back. Now, we'll go to his arms, and you'll fold them. If you've got the elbows bent, you fold them straight down. As you can see, they now go in flush with the truck body. Then you're going to rotate them like so. And then you just fold them under. It's best to try to fold them under at the front first and then work it towards the back. And you should have a pretty snug connection, like so. And down here at the bottom, we'll fold up his feet. You're going to separate the legs from this green bar down here underneath the truck. Then you're going to make sure to scrunch the legs together, like so. Then fold them under the truck and lock them into place. And then there you have it. Hoist's alternate mode is a tow truck. Now, of course, in this position here, the tow bar is kind of resting back on the top of it. If you would like, and you're not using it, you can reinsert the radar panels, and it will help lock it down so it can't move on you freely. But, of course, since he's a tow truck, you definitely want to have that folded out. Even though with that being made of plastic, he's got some good rubber wheels, so he does roll very, very good here on this table. Now, of course, we got Trail Breaker here. We'll just mount Trail Breaker on here. And let's see how well he tows. Kinda okay. You don't want to go too terribly fast with him on there. With somebody like him on there, it might be more appropriate for somebody with a little bit smaller of a wheelbase. Set him aside for the moment. We got here one of the smaller Omnibots. This is Downshift. Let's put him on there and see how he goes. Yeah, he's going okay. The tow bar would quit moving. So, yeah, Omnibot works pretty well on this. Some of the others, however, some of the Autobot cars, it's going to kind of vary depending on what all you do with it. But of course, naturally, any of the guys that are smaller, they're not going to fit due to the fact their wheelbase is too small to connect onto it. Now, more specifically, Hoist here is a pickup truck of the Toyota Hilux variety, as is Trail Breaker. And now that you can see both of them in their truck modes side by side, you can get a good glimpse of them. As you can see, they are both modified pickups. Trail Breaker here has a camper attachment on the back as it's listed as, and Hoist here has the tow truck apparatus attached. If you want to have a real plain Jane Toyota Hilux, you have to go to their competition, as the closest thing that was done is the GoBot Smallfoot. This is a Toyota Hilux without any of the added options. Now, the Toyota Hilux is a very popular pickup truck known for its reliability in almost any conditions. In fact, a lot of guerrilla and insurgent factions are known to favor the Hilux due to the fact that it can take a fair amount of rugged abuse and is relatively easy to keep in operational condition. Save for one example that is featured in the later seasons of the British comedy Last of the Summer Wine, when they got the character Entwistle into the group. He drives a Toyota Hilux that is very prone to breaking down on them. So there's always an exception to every rule, folks. Like many of the older Transformers, Hoist comes with a wealth of accessories that makes finding a complete one on the aftermarket very difficult to do. It also isn't helped by the fact that he shares a lot of the same accessories with Trailbreaker. Case in point, all the items that are featured there in the back row are exactly the same parts that come with Trailbreaker. Now, one thing that I'm going to point out something for you fans to be able to tell on certain pieces, especially these chromed ones, if it came with a specific transformer. As you can see here, I have both of the full spectrum multi-sensors. The one on the left here is the one from Trailbreaker. The one on the right is from Hoist. The easiest way to tell that is to look for some chrome wear here on the top. And there is some from where they were attached to their plastic trees. This one up here up top, you can see a little bit of red through it. I'm not sure if it's coming through clearly. But down here, the one on the bottom, you can see is orange. The orange plastic is from Hoist. The red plastic is from Trailbreaker. So that is something to bear in mind for these guys that have the chrome pieces. If you want it exactly correct for the toy, you'll need to check for that. If that's not something that bothers you, then don't worry about it. Alright, getting back to the parts. Let's get the spectrum back up here so you all can see it clearly. This is basically the piece that fits on the back of his head. We have two of these twin blasters. And they're more or less the same one way or the other. And of course, we also have, again, two of these missiles. They can fit in the arm socket instead of the blasters, if that's what you prefer. I'll run off there. Hoist also has two fists. They are the exact same style of fist as Trailbreaker, but Trailbreakers are black, whereas Hoists are green. Just take a look at the one here. You can see on the inside where the fingers come in to form the fist, it's hollow there, and you had something that's a makeshift thumb on the top, and nothing on the bottom. Same is basically true on the left fist. Then, of course, you got these two radar panels. One for the left and one for the right. It's kind of, there's detail on the one side, and on the opposite side it has considerably less detail. So always going to keep that in mind when you're buying loose ones. And lastly, while it's not technically a loose part, it is very easy to remove off of him, is of course the tow bar. And again, it's just a thin piece of plastic, so it can either be broken off or, like I said, it also comes off very easily, so it is something to keep in mind if you're looking for a loose trail breaker. Sometimes this is missing off the toy, so keep that in mind, my friends. Moving right along now, we'll take a look at hoist instructions. These were done up in the new style for 1985. Almost all the parts. They don't list the tow bar. And then the semi-complex means of transforming him from a tow truck into a robot. Like this on here, missile launchers are designed only to hold missiles in place. They barely even do that. They are pretty snug on mine. I don't know if that's true of all of them. And then, how to put on all those stickers. And it looks like Hoist had quite a few. And then here we got the rub sign feature that was new this year. It was new in 1985. Collect your robot points. That's how you can get guys like Downshift shown earlier. And of course, how to read your tech specs. Which, of course, speaking of that, we got the tech specs right here. It's got a nice picture of him. This would have been on the front of the box as well. I like the fact it showed him with an open hand instead of the closed hands. It's done up in red along the top to show he's an Autobot. Even says he's an Autobot. It gives his name as Hoist, and his function is maintenance. His motto is, you have to be rolling before you can be fighting. No exceptions. All Autobots must submit to his maintenance schedule. Knows they must operate at peak efficiency in battle. Jovial, enjoys job, and is good at it. Will find any problem from engine overhaul to smallest leaky gasket. As tow truck, hauls 40,000 pounds. As robot, very strong. Launches heat-seeking missiles from wrist sockets. Full-spectrum multi-sensor behind his head. Determines an object's composition, density, tensile strength, energy properties. Almost leads you to wonder why he wasn't put in a more scientific field if the thing could do that. Anyways, let's put the decoder over it and let's see what it says about him. It lists his strength as 8, his intelligence is 6, his speed is 3, his endurance is 7, his rank is 4, his courage is 8, his firepower is 6, and his skill is 9. So he does have the strength and skill and courage to make an effective soldier in the Autobots army. His speed is a little bit lacking, but he's a tow truck. What do you expect? Now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of Hoist? I think Hoist is an interesting character, and one that's sort of an essential cog for the Autobots. As being somebody that can determine the things that are needed for their routine vehicle maintenance, he's an absolute essential cog for the Autobot army. It's just a shame they didn't make more guys that were capable of assisting him in that work, so that we could at least have somebody else to help repair and maintain the Autobots for in between battles. In a lot of the adventures, he was set up to be partnered with Grapple, and that was always a nice feature that was done with many of the Autobot cars in 1985. They made it seem like you needed to have both of them. And in the case of Grapple and Hoist, they're definitely the Autobots that, quote, have the skills to pay the bills, unquote. They can do the dirty jobs and help also in other respective fields. Now, the thing that most of us are not impressed with is the fact that Hoist is pretty much a carbon copy of Trailbreaker in the terms of the toy. They're a carbon copy, and that's kind of disappointing. But the Transformers line did that for the bulk of the first couple of years. They did copy off of each other to some degree. It got less noticeable the further the line went on, but early on, this was how they could fill the need for it. Basically, also, it was a way for Takara in Japan to remake a toy as something else, and it also kept their production costs down. So, from a production standpoint, you can understand the similarities. But it is still also something that is a little disappointing, but it's also forgivable. I definitely feel that Hoist is a character that deserves to be in the top tier. He's not one of them that everybody remembers, and that's the unfortunate part. But he does have a very useful alternate mode. He's got a useful function that the Autobots especially so desperately need on their squad. And he does have a pretty good bio and good tech spec stats. The only real major complaint is, like I stated earlier, is the part count. I've never been a fan of ones that have so many parts that it's easy to lose them, and that makes it a pain for those of us adult collectors to try to track down. But I don't think we should overlook Hoist. He's still a good character, has a useful function for the Autobots, and that's about all you need. Top tier all the way, folks. And that concludes my review of the Generation 1 Autobot Maintenance Worker, Hoist. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't done so already. Please also consider leaving a like and share your thoughts about Hoist in the comments section down below. This is Sparkster1701 reminding all of you that for this St. Paddy's Day, enjoy yourselves, don't drink too much, and I'll catch you all later. Don't forget to wear your green.